Okay, this is Mongolian Mindset, and we're back again with another analysis of a celebrity. Today we're doing Bruce Lee. We put a poll in the group yesterday, and everyone voted unanimously on type in Bruce Lee. If you like the content, please subscribe. Comment below if you agree or disagree, and give us the reasons why. So without any, let's go ahead and start this now.
Lee faces a real dilemma. He's on the verge of stardom in the United States with a projected TV series on the horizon, but he's just achieved superstardom as a film actor here in Hong Kong. So what does he choose, the East or the West? It's a kind of problem most budding movie actors would welcome.
It's the Pierre Burton Show, the program that comes at Ironside and Long Street. His name is Bruce Lee.
His voice is used, right?
Definitely. Speak only Cantonese.
Yeah. Well, how can you play in Mandarin movies if you don't even speak Mandarin? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I speak only Cantonese.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so when he was asked the question there, how can you do that? He said he pretty much informed him that he only speaks Cantonese. He didn't tell him. You just said it wasn't really forceful, anything, which is one of the things of being direct language is pretty forceful sometimes. But yeah, he wanted to educate him here. So I could say that's a point for informative.
there is quite a difference as far as pronunciation and things like that go.
So somebody else's voice is used, right?
Definitely.
You just make the words. Doesn't that sound strange when you go to the movies, especially in Hong Kong, in your own town, and you see yourself with somebody else's voice?
Well, not really, you see, because most of the Mandarin picture done here are dubbed anyway.
They dubbed anyway.
Disregard. They shoot without sound. So it doesn't, make any difference.
Your lips never quite make the right words, do they?
Well, that's where the difficulty lies, you see. In order to, because the Cantonese have a different way of saying things,
Okay, see, he is getting very informative. Wow, I didn't expect Bruce Lee to be informative, but yeah, if you could tell the way he's using his words, they're not very direct, they're not concise, they're not specific, they're very vague, wordy and descriptive, which would be under informative language. But yeah, listen, let's go ahead and take a listen there.
Make the right words, do they?
Well, that's where the difficulty lies, you see. In order to, because the Cantonese have a different way of saying things, different from the Mandarin.
Yeah.
So I have to find something similar to that and keep a kind of a feeling going behind that. Something that matching the Mandarin deal.
Like the old silent days.
Complicated?
Like the old silent days. But I gather in the movies made here, the dialogue is pretty stilted anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. See, to me, a motion picture is motion.
Yeah.
You gotta keep the dialogue down to the minimum.
If you see the way he's going in his interviews, very relaxed, tone of voice is very low. Bruce Lee's informative.
Many Mandarin movies before you started playing in the first one.
Yes.
What did you think of them when you saw them?
Quality-wise, I have to admit that it's not quite up to the standard. However, it is growing and it is getting higher and higher and going toward that standard, that what I would term quality.
They say the secret of
So
your
right there, that was a
success
progression statement.
in that movie.
That was a progression.
It is growing and it is getting higher.
Did you look at many Mandarin movies before you started playing in the first one?
Yes.
What did you think of them when you saw them?
Quality-wise, I have to admit that it's not quite up to the standard. However, it is growing.
See, but he cares about the progression. He's not talking about the outcome. He's talking about the progression of it. So it's continuing to go up. So I'm going to put down a point for progression. And we've already concluded that Bruce Lee's informative. He's not direct. It's not direct. So he can only be with being informative. He can only be like an ESFP, ENTP, ESFJ, or ENFP. Or he can be the background types, which would be ISFJ, INTP, INFP, and the last one, ISFP. So he's one of those 8. He's one of those 8. He's either background or he's a starter. If he's progression, he's a starter. So
higher and higher and going toward that standard, that what I would term quality.
They say the secret of your success in that movie, The Big Boss, which was such a success here and rocketed you to stardom in Asia, was that you did your own fighting. As an expert in the various martial arts in China, what did you think of the fighting that you saw in the movies that you studied before you became a star?
Well, I mean, definitely in the beginning, I had no intention or whatsoever that what I was practicing and what I'm still practicing now would lead to this to begin with. But martial art has a very, very...
So he's pretty much just saying he had no outcome there when he started. No real outcome.
Would lead to this.
I know.
You see that? He's saying outcome people generally have an outcome they're looking for.
Or whatsoever that what I was practicing and what I'm still practicing now would lead to this to begin with. But martial art has a very, very deep meaning as far as my life is concerned, because as an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned from martial art.
Maybe for our audience who doesn't know what it means, you might explain exactly what you mean by martial art.
Right. Martial art include all the combative arts like karate or karate, judo, Chinese kung fu or Chinese boxing, whatever you call it. All those. You see, like Aikido, Korean, I can go on and on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting. I mean, it's not, some of them became sport, but some of them are still not. I mean, they use, for instance, kicking to the groin, jabbing fingers at the eyes and things like that.
No wonder you're successful in that.
You see that? It's super informative, dude. Like sometimes when you're dealing with super informative people, and you're direct, you gotta like play back what they said to actually get an understanding of what the fuck they're talking about.
They're full of this kind of action anyway. They needed a guy like you could...
Violence, man.
So you didn't have to use a double when you moved into the motion picture world here. You did it all yourself. Right. Can you break 5 or 6 pieces of wood with your hand or your foot?
I'll probably break my hand and foot.
But tell me a little bit, you set up a school in Hollywood, didn't you, for people like James Garner and Steve McQueen and the others?
Yes.
Why would they want to learn Chinese martial arts? Because of a movie role?
Not really. Most of them, you see, to me, at least the way that when I teach it, all type of knowledge ultimately means self-knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's getting distracted here.
Coming into...
Okay, he's getting distracted here. He's getting distracted.
Self-knowledge. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they're coming into, and ask me to teach them not so much of how to defend themselves or how to do somebody in. Rather, they want to learn to express themselves through some movement, be it anger, be it determination, or whatsoever. So in other words, what I'm saying, therefore, is that he is paying me to show him in combative form the art of expressing the human body.
Which is acting, in a sense, isn't it?
Well...
Or it would be a useful tool for an actor to have.
It might sound too philosophical, but it's acting.
So he's getting abstract here. We're going to put down the point for abstraction. He's getting into the philosophy. These are all, when you talk about abstractions versus non-abstractions, he's talking about intangibles. Tangibles would be concrete, and he's not talking about that right now. So Bruce Lee's actually going to the abstract right now. So he's looked like he's informative. We got 2 points for progression, 1 point for abstraction, and we already have taken informative off the board because he is not direct. He's not.
Acting,
you've lost me.
I know a lot of like databases type him ISTP, but ISTPs are very direct.
I have
boxing. How does it differ from, say, our kind of boxing?
Well, first we use the feet.
That's
And
a
then
start.
we use the elbow. And
Use the thumb too.
you name it, man. You
Use it all.
You have to, you see, because, I mean, that is the expression of the human body. I mean, everything. I mean, not just the hand. And when you're talking about combat, well, I mean, if it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting,
so like I said, this guy's informative. Like, I don't even know where he's at anymore. Like,
combat.
Like, you got to remember, when people are direct, they leave absolutely nothing up for interpretation. Like, you get what they're saying, it's just right there in your face. This here, I got to go back and listen to him again. He's informative.
If it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting as it is, with no rules,
real fighting,
well then, baby, you better train every part of your body. And when you do punch, now I'm leaning forward a little bit, hoping not to hurt any camera angle. I mean, you gotta put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
I don't want to tangle you.
He's talking about energy, weapon. I'm going to put down another point for
You came at
abstract.
me pretty fast there. What is the difference between Chinese boxing and what we see these young men doing at 8 o'clock every morning on the rooftops in the parks called shadow boxing, which they're always...
Well, actually, you see, that is part of Chinese boxing.
It is.
There are so many schools.
Everybody here
schools.
seems to be, going like this all the time.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm
They're all good
very
shape.
glad. I'm very glad to see that, because at least somebody is caring for their own body, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good sign. Well, it's a kind of a slow form of exercise, which is called Tai Chi Chuan. I'm speaking Mandarin just now.
Yeah.
Cantonese Tai Chi Kun. Okay.
So he's initiating there too.
It's more of an exercise for the.
He just initiated. I'm speaking Mandarin now, so we put on a point for initiating.
Okay. And it's more of an exercise for the elderly, not so much for the
Give me a
young.
demonstration. Show me. Can you do it, a little bit of it? Just so
I mean,
that,
hand-wise, it's very slow.
How is it?
And you push it out, but all the time you are keeping the continuity going. Bending, stretching, everything. Suppose, I mean, you just keep it moving.
It's like a ballet dancer there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to them, you see, the idea is running water never grows stale. So you got to just keep on flowing.
Running water never grows stale. Yeah, we're going to put on another point for abstraction. Bruce Lee's informative and abstract.
Of all your students, famous, James Garner, Steve McQueen, Lee Marvin, James Coburn, Roman Polanski, which was the best? Who adapted best to this Oriental form of exercise and defense?
Well, depending, okay? Now, as a fighter, Steve McQueen, now, he is good in that department because that son of a gun got the toughness in him.
Yeah.
I mean,
see it on the screen.
I mean, he would say, all right, baby, here I am, man. And he'll do it.
Yeah,
Now, James Coburn is a peace-loving man,
I met him.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've met him. I mean, he's really, really nice. I mean, super mellow and all that. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, now, he appreciates the philosophical part of it. Therefore, his understanding of it is deeper than Steve. So it's really hard to say. You see what I'm saying now?
So I'm on philosophies again. So I'm gonna, like, philosophies is also part of abstraction. We're gonna go ahead and take informative and abstract off the board. Bruce Lee is abstract and he is informative. So we're down. Kill all those. So we're down to INFP, ENFP, ENTP, INTP. Okay. That's the only types he can be. And he doesn't seem to be outcome because he's not really talking about outcome. So we can actually get rid of INTP, INFP, and we're actually down to ENTP, ENFP. And the reason why we could get rid of outcome is because he said a few progression statements, and he has initiated once. So he's most likely an ENTP or ENFP. And so we can distinguish ENTP and ENFP by either TEFI. ENFPs are affiliative. ENTPs are pragmatic. So that's what we'll be looking for going down to this. Is he affiliative? Is he pragmatic? Is he TEFI or is he TIFE? So yeah. Let's see. We're down to 2 types for Bruce Lee.
It's different. So that's, depending on what you see in it.
Interesting that we don't, in our world, and haven't since the days of the Greeks who did, combine philosophy and art with sport. But quite clearly, the Oriental attitude is that the three are facets of the same things.
Man, listen, you see, really, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself.
Okay,
it's
so
very difficult to do.
If you haven't picked up so far in the interview, TE is using outside information. TI is using your own internal logic. And if you haven't noticed throughout this interview, Bruce Lee, every time he asks him, he says to me, which is showing that he tends to want to be TI and not TE. TE refers on data and like statistics and whatnot, and TI refers on their own internal logical system. So, I think Bruce Lee might be an ENTP.
It is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself.
Abstract.
And to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do. And you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. And when
you just went through the progression there too.
Move, not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm gonna do it, man, and I'm gonna do it, you see. So that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the, you think?
Yeah, this is very un-Western, this attitude. I want to ask you about your movie and TV career, but first we'll take a break, and I'll be back with Bruce Lee. I've been talking to Bruce Lee mainly about the Chinese martial arts, which include things like Chinese boxing, karate, and judo, which is what he taught when he was in Hollywood. After he left the University of Washington, where he studied, of all things, philosophy, if you can believe that. He did, but that perhaps you'll understand why the two go together from the first half of this program. And you can perhaps understand how he got into films. You need a lot of actors, but I'm told the big break when you played in Longstreet. I must tell the audience that Bruce Lee had a bit part or a supporting role in the Longstreet series, and this had an enormous effect on the audience. What was it?
Well, you see, the title of that particular episode of Longstreet is called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. Now, I think the successful ingredient in it was because I was being Bruce Lee.
Yourself.
Myself, right. And did that part, just express myself, like I say, honestly express myself at that time. And because of that, I brought, favorable mentioning in like New York Times, which says like the Chinaman, who incidentally came off quite convincingly enough to earn himself a television series, and so on and so on and so forth.
Can you remember the lines by Sterling Sullivan, the key lines?
He's one of my students, you know that?
Was he too?
Yes.
Everybody was your student. But you read, there were some lines that expressed your philosophy. I don't know if you remember them or not.
No, I remember that. I said, this is what it is, okay?
You're talking to Longstreet, played by James Francesca.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
Abstract.
Now you put water into a cup.
Abstract.
It becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or
so,
it can...
I know, let's go back on this. A lot of people have him down as an ISTP. ISTPs are concrete. They do not talk like this. Okay, they're very direct and they're concrete. If you ever noticed, Bruce Lee is very informative and he's very abstract. So, with that being said, he cannot be an ISTP. ISTPs don't talk like this. They talk about the physical world and what it is in the physical world. They're not getting abstract into philosophies, beliefs. They're not getting into this realm here as well.
You crash, be water, my friend. Like that, you see?
No, I see. I get the idea. I get the power behind it. So now, two things have happened. First, there's a pretty good chance that you'll get a TV series in the States called The Warriors, in which you use what, the martial arts in a Western setting?
That was the original idea. Now,
Yeah.
Paramount, I did Longstreet for Paramount, and Paramount wants me to be in a television series. On the other hand, Warner Brother wants me to be in another one, but both of them, I think, they want me to be in a modernized type of a thing. And they think that Western idea is out.
But
Whereas
you want to do the Western, eh?
because you see, I mean, how else can you justify all these punching and kicking and violence except in the period of the West? I mean, in nowadays, I mean, you don't go around on the street kicking people or punching people. Because if you do, that's it. I mean, I don't care how good you are,
But this is true also of the Chinese
So
dramas.
he's talking about if you went around punching and kicking people, somebody probably pull out a gun and kill you. And yeah, the gun doesn't matter how good you are. That's a what-if statement, so that was an abstraction. So yeah, but we already know Bruce Lee's abstract. Okay, we already know he's either ENFP or ENTP, and we're seeing more TIFE because he keeps going back to his internal logical system, and he's not referencing other data or statistics or achievements or anything like that. He's referencing what he knows personally.
But you're mainly costume dramas, and they're all full of blood and gore over here.
Oh, you mean here? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you see, I hope that the picture I am in would either explain why the violence was done, whether right or wrong or whatnot. But unfortunately, pictures, most of them here are done mainly just for the sake of violence. You know what I mean? Like, fighting for 30 minutes, get stabbed 50 times.
But I'm fascinated. Let me give you your microphone back. I'm fascinated that you came back.
I am a martial artist.
You came back to Hong Kong on the verge of success in Hollywood and full of it. And suddenly, on the strength of one picture, you become a superstar. Everybody knows you. You have to change your phone number. You get mobbed in the streets. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to live in both worlds? Are you going to be a superstar here, or one in the States, or both?
Well, let me say this. First of all, the word superstar really turned me off, and I'll tell you why. Because the word star, man, it's an illusion.
See, he's getting distracted again, and he's breaking it down into his internal logical system here. Okay? Go back, make sure you guys catching that. Yeah, this guy's the ENTP.
The word superstar really turned me off, and I'll tell you why. Because the word star, man, it's an illusion.
It's an illusion,
it's something
intangible.
What the public calls you. You should look upon oneself as an actor, man.
So he doesn't really care about labels and stuff. So an ENFP would care about labels. ENTPs really don't care about labels. And you see him talking about that now.
I mean, you would be very pleased if somebody say, hey, man, you are a super actor. It is much better than, superstar.
Yeah,
Therefore,
you've got to admit that you are a superstar. If you're going to give me the truth.
I am now. I'm honestly saying this, okay? Yes, I have been very successful.
Yeah.
Okay? But I think the word star I do not look upon myself as a star. I really don't. I mean, believe me, man, when I say it. I mean, I'm not saying it because
what are you going to do? Let's get back to the question.
Okay.
Are you going to stay in Hong Kong and be famous? Or are you going to
You see, like, he avoided the whole, he initiated that as well, so, yeah.
Be famous, or are you going to try and eat your cake and have it too?
I am going to do both because, you see, I have already made up my mind. that in the United States, I think something about the Oriental, the true Oriental should be shown.
Hollywood sure as heck hasn't.
You better believe it, man. I mean, it's always the pigtail and bouncing around, chop, with the eyes slant and all that. And I think that's very, very out of
Is it
date.
true that you were the first job you had was being cast as Charlie Chan's number one?
Yeah, number one son, yeah. No,
They never made a movie.
No. They were gonna make it into like a new Chinese James Bond type of a thing. Now that, the old man Chan is dead, Charlie is dead, and his son is carrying on.
But they didn't do that.
No. Batman came along, you see, because, and then everything was started to be going into that, that kind of a,
which you were in. But
by the way, I did a really terrible job in that, I have to say.
Okay, so he just initiated it again. So yeah, but we already know he's extroverted.
Really? You didn't like yourself? I didn't see it. Let me ask you, however, about the problems that you face as a Chinese hero in an American series. Have people come up in the industry and said, well, we don't know how the audience are going to take a non-American?
Well, such question has been raised. In fact, it is being discussed, and that is why The Warrior is not going to be on.
I see.
You see, because unfortunately, such thing does exist in this world. You see, like, I don't know, certain part of the country, right, where like they think that business-wise it's a risk. And I don't blame them. I mean, in the same way, it's like in Hong Kong, if a foreigner come and became a star, if I were the man with the money, I probably would have my own worry of whether or not.
See, that's another if statement then.
I don't blame them. I mean, in the same way, it's like in Hong Kong, if a foreigner come and became a star, if I were the man with the money, I probably would have my
and the reason
own worry of.
It's an abstraction is because he's talking about like a different reality, a different perspective, a different thing. So yeah.
Whether or not the acceptance would be there, but that's all right, because if you honestly express yourself, it doesn't matter. See?
Are you? How about the other side of the coin? Is it possible that you are? I mean, you're fairly hip and fairly Americanized. Are you too Western for Oriental audiences? Do you think?
Oh man, like how? I have been.
Yeah.
I have been criticized for that.
You have. Eh?
Oh, yes, definitely. So. Well, let me say this. When I do the Chinese film, I'll try my best not to be as American as I, have been adjusted to for the last 12 years in the States. But when I go back to the States, it seems to be the other way around. You know what I mean?
Too exotic, eh?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're trying to get me to do too many things that are really for the sake of being exotic. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, sure.
So it's really, I mean, it's
when you live in both worlds, it brings us problems as well as advantages, and you've got both. Time to go to a commercial. I'll be back in a moment with Bruce Lee. Let me ask you whether the change in attitude on the part of the Nixon administration towards China has helped your chances of starring in an American TV series.
Well, first of all, this happened before that.
Yeah.
But I do think that things of Chinese will be quite interesting for the next few years. I mean, not that I'm politically, inclining toward anything.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering.
But I mean, once the opening of China, that it will bring more understanding.
Yeah.
More things that are, like different,
Talking about the future.
And maybe in the contrast of comparison, some new thing might grow. So therefore, I mean, it's a very rich period to be in. I mean, like, if I were born, let's say...
if I was born...
40 years ago.
40 years ago.
If I have a thought in my mind, I said, boy, I'm going to star in a movie or star in a television series in America. Well, that might be a vague dream, but I think right now, maybe.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being. Because, I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say, but under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. It just so happened, man, that people are different.
Okay, we got to go. Thank you, Bruce Lee, for coming here. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Okay, so from that we can conclude that Bruce Lee is really informative. Bruce Lee is abstract. So with that limits it down to 4 types: INTP, INFP, ENTP, ENFP. Bruce Lee was initiating in the interview, and he was also doing a lot of progression, not just talking about outcomes. INTPs and INFPs, they look for outcomes. They're not just looking for progression. And Bruce Lee is looking for progression. And he talks about his own internal logical framework. If you see throughout the interview, he says what this means to me, instead of like references outside data, statistics, and facts. So off that, he is an ENTP. Also, he's pragmatic and not affiliative. He's not affiliative. An affiliative person kind of coincides with their culture, community, or whatnot. If you see him, he's going back between the Western and the Chinese, and he's not really affiliated with any of it. He's just doing his own thing. He's acting in a utilitarian manner, and does whatever it takes to get desired results. So he would go under the pragmatic umbrella, which would also distinguish between ENTP and ENFPs. ENFPs are affiliative. ENTPs are pragmatic. ENTPs are also TIFE. ENFPs are TEFI. So yes, Bruce Lee is an ENTP. That's Mongolian Mindset, and we're out.